What's up, Ego Hackers? Welcome to the CS Joseph podcast. And I'm your host, CS Joseph, because I'm obviously not Chris, and I'm obviously not Sam, and obviously not the other person that we're probably going to be having do videos for us as well. Because the Acolyte questions keep pouring in, and we got tons to do, lots of questions to get through to help get you guys the answers that you need so that you can learn and grow within Foresight Dynamics, which is our interpretation, the Ego Hacker community interpretation of Jungian analytical psychology. Awesome. And today's question is, how can an ESFJ get better at finishing projects? Which, awesome. Oh, it's so good. It's such a relief to have an ESFJ question and not another INTJ question or, okay, don't worry, guys. I don't mind having all these INTJ questions. I'm sure the INTJs really appreciate it. It's nice to have a little bit of variety to questions. And ESFJs, I love you folks. You're my conflict type, but I actually look up to you folks a lot. I remember this one ESFJ who was a firefighter. Really, really awesome dude. I ended up on top of a roof of a restaurant called Jimmy's Pizza in Stanwood, Washington, with an ESFJ guy. And my cousin and I, we were fixing something on top of the roof because uh, I think it was their heat pump went out, and then all of a sudden we had to go fix their I think it was their Freon or something, and we had to deal with the fact that their fridge just went out and all their food was going to go bad, and the owner was freaking out. So it was an emergency call, and we were there until 3 in the morning working hard on this roof and getting stuff done. It was pretty cool to have that opportunity, and this ESFJ guy was totally there, and I learned so much from him, telling me about how he's a firefighter, telling me about how he's really good at beer pong, and so many other things. And let me tell you, this guy absolutely had a hard time finishing projects. Obviously, because we all have the same interaction style, same as me. He's a starter type. He's all about starting things. That's what he does. He starts things, and then he can't really finish them because all ESFJs have that problem as much as ENTPs, ESFPs, and ENFPs also have that problem. And that's not really a bad thing. It's just that and why they start new things constantly is because of extroverted feeling hero cognitive looping with extrovert intuition child. The lack of introverted sensing parent, which means a lack of self-discipline, gets in the way. And because of that, any hero or any child is ooh, what do you want? Oh, you're telling me what you want? Okay, I'll stop what I'm doing and give you what you want. Or ooh, you really like that? Okay, I'll stop what I'm doing and get you what you like. And they can be very servile that way. They're serving others consistently. So especially servile ESFJs have a really, really hard time finishing projects they start. Well, guess what? Gluttonous ones also have that problem too, because it's ooh, this new thing to explore, this new thing to taste. Let me stop what I'm doing and go do that instead. Let me stop what I'm doing and go do that. Let me stop what I'm doing and go do that. And it's just this relentless thing over and over and over that they end up struggling with. What's even worse is that you can't even really give them much advice on how to fix that issue, because extrovert thinking demon is just going to automatically assume that you're stupid, and then because of that they don't even listen to you. For more on learning how to deal with extroverted thinking demon, you might want to consider getting a journeyman membership with us at csjoseph.life/members, because in the premium lectures, I have an entire lecture series on demon functions and how to deal with them and how to turn them from demon to angels and how to make the best use of those particular functions. And the extroverted thinking demon function is, that particular lecture is very good and goes into that at very, very much depth and length. So I recommend checking that out. That being said, it really comes down to an issue of cognitive looping, and this is something that Dave Powers calls jumping. Being a jumper, basically. And a jumper is someone who has an underdeveloped parent function. Introverted sensing parent is supposed to be developed. The problem is that a lot of ESFJs in their youth don't really have the opportunity to develop their function. So they're actually particularly weak to not being able to finish things as starter types. One of the reasons why this is because ESFJs, they're very high demand, especially as women, because for relationships, for being mothers, for having children, etc. because ESFJs are hyper feminine. They serve so much, and they really bring a lot of joy to the SP men, in their lives. ESFJ men are also in extremely high demand for military, for police, but especially firefighters. They thrive as firefighters. And that's just one of the ways that they contribute, to society, constantly being supportive, constantly helping. They also make really good contractors as well in certain particular situations, really good factory workers. They just are a walking support structure, and that's why ultimately ESFJs are end up in high demand. And because of that insanely high demand from society and also people in their life, they have a hard time finishing projects because they're getting pulled in every direction, because everyone's like, oh, you're super valuable because you're super supportive and you're super helpful. So let me interrupt your life for a second and just tell you what I want. And then because it's your expert intuition child, you're going to stop what you're doing and then give it to me. Yay. Or I'm going to tell you what I like. Yay. Or what happens when I tell you both of what I want and I like simultaneously? Now you're really going to stop what you're doing and get it for me, right? And they end up doing this consistently over time. And it's not until like they get much older and out of their youth that they realize, like, yeah, this is probably not a good idea for me to be such a people pleaser, because ESFJs end up after a while getting worried about, with their introverted feeling nemesis, they get worried about being taken advantage of. They get worried about giving way more to others than they receive, and that's when they start doing covert contract manipulation, where it's like, hey, they've done someone a bunch of favors, but then they demand or expect favors from other people, or they will just straight up take from other people that they have given favors, feeling entitled to take from that person when the ESFJ needs to, or when they are inclined to take. And that can also be a huge problem. So definitely not an area of behavior that I would recommend for them. But like I said, it's extroverted feeling hero looping with extrovert intuition child, and it's like, hey, I'm here to give you what you like. I'm here to give you what you want, what you want, what you like, 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 over and 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 over, and they become the ultimate people pleasers to the point where they are so giving that they end up destroying themselves in the process and become insanely bitter to everyone that they've ever given anything to. Because all of a sudden they're like, hey, I really wish someone would be just as supportive to me as I am supportive to them. And sadly, that's not actually real life ever. Once. Bueller. Like, no, it's just not going to work. So they need to watch out for that. So how do they deal with that? Well, it comes by learning how to say no. And ESFJs really have a hard time saying no. Very hard time saying no. Because they're already worried about not being worthy enough. They're already worried about not being good enough. And then at the same time, they're trying their hardest to be really supportive and give people what they like and give people what they want. And that could be a huge issue. They have a hard time saying no, at least in their youth, until they develop the self-discipline, because they realize that even though they covert contract with other people, people are going to have very negative reactions to covert contract manipulation. They realize that covert contracts don't really work that well. They're going to get a lot of blowback, a lot of negative consequences that their anti-trickster didn't see coming for themselves. So as a result of that, they're just like, oh man, I need to stop. And then all of a sudden, introverted sensing parent starts to develop and to get in the way of extrovert intuition child and extroverted feeling hero from looping and preventing them being this people-pleasing mess, this hot mess of people-pleasing, which is important. The problem is, though, is that because they're in such high demand, oftentimes ESFJs are one of the 16 types that has the lowest opportunity to actually develop their parent function. Unless, of course, they're like the firstborn in a family. If they're a firstborn, they'll learn pretty quick because their parents will usually have them take care of their other children, and that could be foist upon ESFJs a ton of responsibilities at an early age because of how responsible ESFJs are. And that could be a big deal. That could be a huge problem for them. And that because of that, they don't have the opportunity to develop their parent function. And the thing is too is like even their parents would try to help develop their parent function, but by then when they're an adolescent, the ESFJ is protecting their ego, and that's not going to happen. So the only way to develop their parent function, at least from an external source, is those people actually target their extroverted sensing critic and hold them to a higher standard of performance, basically, and really challenge the ESFJ anytime they perform low or when they make errors, basically. The thing is, ESFJs don't really like getting criticized for their failure with their extroverted sensing critic, because from their perspective, it's like, hey, I'm so helpful and I do you so many favors. Why don't you just give me the special treatment? Why don't you make me part of the oligarchy? Why don't you make me part of the old boys club that doesn't get criticized for anything because I'm so helpful and so supportive? So, hey, you don't criticize me on my performance in exchange for me being helpful and supportive, right? Well, the problem is most people will do that to ESFJ egos and kind of fluff them up a bit, and that actually inhibits ESFJ's growth, and they're never really going to develop their own introverted sensing parent sense of responsibility till later in life, which really sucks to be them, and likely what ends up sparking off their quarter life crisis in the process. Something that I don't envy for ESFJs, nor would I ever like recommend that for ESFJs, like ever. That it, like sucks to be them, and they're ultimately being set up for failure in that way. So what ESFJs really have to realize is that they have to go all out to develop their own parent function. They have to be self-disciplined, very, very much. It's all about self-discipline. Why? So that they can develop the healthy habit of saying no. Because and that's literally the answer to this question. How can an ESFJ get better at finishing products or projects? It's the ability to say no. It's the ability to say no, I can't help you right now. Because then the ESFJ is aware of priorities that are higher priority than particularly helping that person, etc. Like it's a really, really big deal that an ESFJ learns how to say no. So important. I cannot stress how important it is for an ESFJ to learn how to say no. I cannot stress that enough. I cannot it's a huge requirement, because if they are not able to say no, they'll have everything taken away from them. And there's even like an old Bible verse, I think, for the book of Proverbs that actually describes this pretty well. Something that my FE hero father also got bit in the butt with once, and it's called, do not put up surety for another. Surety means insurance. It means don't co-sign on the loan, right? My dad co-signed on a loan one time, and it completely financially destroyed our family. Like, with upwards of 350 grand, also destroyed every opportunity my parents would have to pay for my college education, etc. Even though I shouldn't have even gone to college whatsoever, or university, or any of that. I shouldn't have, and I shouldn't even had that unrealistic expectation on my folks anyway. And I apologize for that, and I take full responsibility for that. But I didn't know any better because I was just a dumb kid who was a victim of societal programming. Newsflash, don't go to university, don't go to college. And honestly, typically, and I say this with grace, and I'm not saying this applies to 100% of people, but most people that go to college or university are either losers or they're women. So like just keep that in mind. I mean, statistically, more women go to college universities anyway. So keep that in mind. Like, you don't really need to go to college or university. Maybe you should just learn entrepreneurship. Go to csjoseph.life/reading. Scroll down to the Entrepreneurship 16. Read all those books, except for maybe Traction. You don't really need to read that book. But read the other 15 books, especially Launch by Jeff Walker, which is insanely important. Very important thing. And speaking of launch, we are having a product launch later this month. It's called Ego Hacking by Text. If you want to have the opportunity to learn how to type people just by text messages or reading emails, Discord messages, SMS text messages, messages inside of World of Warcraft, I don't know, or Call of Duty, I don't know, and then also learn how to ego hack them by sending messages back, well, then this is the course for you. It is releasing at the end of this month around Black Friday, Cyber Monday. At that time, we're hoping to be able to have pre-orders for it within the next couple of days, if not even tomorrow. So look for that announcement in the very, very near future. You're going to want to get in on the pre-order because the pre-order price, the early bird price, will be the lowest price the product will ever be in its entire history. So if you want to get in on it, you want to get in on it now while you still can at that amazing price. And it's a pretty great course. I'm pretty happy with what we've been able to come up with it so far. So check that out and get involved with that. Also, we have an Ego Hacking by Text contest going on right now on our Discord. You can get on our Discord at discord.gg/ego hackers, or you can just click the Linktree link in the description and then click join our Discord community from there to get on our Discord server, and go to the EBT competition rules channel to learn how to do it, and then participate in the submissions channel basically, and enter in your submissions there to win some awesome prizes. So go check that out as well. Anyway, so the bottom line is that introverted sensing parent needs to develop, and it can be developed by people externally, by impacting and holding an ESFJ to a higher level of performance accountability to increase their performance of their extroverted sensing critic, which will naturally develop their introverted sensing parent. Or the ESFJ can practice having self-discipline, basically, and having the self-discipline to ultimately say no and refuse people help. And by refusing people help, that provides additional space for the ESFJ to actually finish what commitments they actually have. It's all about filtering out commitment, right? Because the ESFJ can be easily committed to things because they're like so helpful and so supportive, etc., because they don't have their introverted sensing parent developed. But introverted sensing parent being developed gives them the opportunity to just tell people no. I already have other commitments. And that is how ESFJs get better at finishing projects. So, anyway, folks, thanks for watching and listening to this episode, and I will see you guys on the next one. Later.